let me let's look at these two little situations here. This one is one I thought is interesting because you look at Democrat. Okay, I'm just going to say Democrats. It's easy. You have lifelong Democrats. I've got a friend of mine, a veteran friend of mine I served with back in the 80s, still in touch. A bunch of us are still in touch. And he is a diehard Democrat because he comes from like steel country, Pennsylvania. And his parents were Democrats. Union, workers' rights, food bank must be full in case of emergency. Very down to earth, meat and potatoes, great American, absolute patriot in the sense of literally was an 11 Bravo infantryman for his United States Army. Parents probably as well. I don't know. But I mean, American as you can get in that sense. But now he's voting right alongside on that Democratic side with the purple-haired guy that's dressed up in a frog uniform hopping around in front of the ICE protest place out in Portland, Oregon. Somehow those two are now on the same team.
He enables that behavior.
Well, okay, perhaps. How? How did he enable it?
First he doesn't tell that guy that's the purple frog that he's absolutely out of his fucking mind.
Well, he can be out of his mind. It's a free country. As long as he's not breaking or hurting anything.
I know. But to embrace insanity into your party, that's kind of enabling,
You don't
You're
think there's any Nazis?
crazy people.
Do you think there's actually any skinhead Nazis that voted for Trump?
Oh, fuck yeah.
There you go. That's their version of the purple-haired freak.
But you don't see MAGA people out going, come over here, skinhead. Come on over. They're saying, don't do that. But the Democrats are saying, I know you got purple hair and a septum ring.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm picturing the coal miner bar in West Virginia where they've been Democrats since before the Civil War.
Too. But I don't
and
see
the purple-haired guy walking
in.
into the right. Do you think the purple-haired guy walks into that bar? No. So just right. So neither side would do that. My point being that they are consistent. They do wind up on the same side. So this is where you see. This is where we're going to segue sort of how the democracy is as far as voices versus two voices. So lots of voices end up being in. So the Union Democrat wants job protection, wages, trade barriers, worries about outsourcing, automation, elite, stuff like that, probably AI, everybody's in that one. And so now they're with the purple-haired guy because at least they're not a Republican. Okay? So now again, it's no longer people, it's now titles, names, because those evil Republicans, those fascist Republicans. So the progressive activist wants, meanwhile, the purple-haired guy, he wants identity right, institutional reform, cultural changes, worries about systemic oppression, climate, representation, and now he's pals with the Democrat Union guy because he's not one of them, one of those fascist Republicans.
But he does not want a job at the steel mill.
Well, that's irrelevant. They're not voting on jobs at the steel mill. They're voting on the presidency. And so they share an enemy. The enemy of my – so how's that go? The enemy of my enemy
– a friend of my enemy.
Right. Something along those lines. Right, exactly. Right. So now they share to
I don't know. I know.
Which is the same – right, which is the same thing as the, farmer who's just farming and wherever.
Right.
And then as opposed to the person that wants to outlaw or make a death penalty for abortion and cut off all foreign aid and, the extreme ultra right, or I don't even know what that would be, as opposed to somebody that just fundamentally says, I like law and order. I like fiscal responsibility. I like a strong military. And that's pretty much it. That's 101 Republican. And so, the way we have it these days, so they would vote Republican, but they have nothing to do with, okay, let's round up all of Venezuelans and throw them out of the country, or whatever. But the same thing happens. You get the farmer and whatever the other one is, and then voting against the progressive and the Union Democrat. And so we once again have managed to whittle our way down to 50-50, despite none of the four people we just mentioned have much in common at all. The two that have the most common in that would be the farmer and the steelworker, because they probably would agree on damn near everything. The only reason they're not is because the farmer has no idea what you're talking about when you talk about unions, because they've never experienced something like that. And I don't know, maybe the Union Democrat, whatever, just some other issue. But they would basically agree on everything else, probably. But they're voting against each other, and who's running the show? The progressive activists and the one that wants to round up and deport everybody at a bad degree. Now, again, I'm not on that issue. There needed to be change, and change was done. How it was done, that's up to everybody to decide. But so there's that. So there again, the squeakiest wheels get the change. Some of the things
the Union Democrat,
right? The farmer and the Democrat probably all about getting the bridge fixed too.
Yeah.
I mean, the others would also, but these others would see more of as maybe their crops depend on going over there. But I mean, it has real use to them in a different way. So a very baseline. The progressive activist and the other one probably maybe not. I mean, the Democrat probably has health care, working in a union. So it might be medications. What happens if medications go up? So these are issues. There's, again, baseline, but your most common Americans would agree on them. The progressive activist and the activists on the right are the ones that run the show. Cultural vertigo. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but this is the default setting now that we have here. It's real. The feeling of cultural displacement that many Americans experience is genuine and deserves an honest engagement, not a dismissal of bigotry. And what we're getting at here is that now we're having, okay, we're going to have Sharia law, or we're going to have some other insert cultural thing from another land that now is going to be heavily represented in a small area, relatively speaking. And on top of that, we are going to impose our culture on your area, quasi-modern colonization, and you're going to be okay with that. And somehow we've been okay with that. And so that changes the America that we remember in a way that is not recognizable. When you suddenly
Minneapolis
or Dearborn, that's the poster child.
Ew, yeah.
Where their shoulder patches are in Arabic on the police.
I know, and
so it's real.
We could do a whole show on those bullshit heads.
But that's just to point out that when we say the world is different than the 80s when we grew up, it's not just about the fact that we had better music and we had better movies. We had a better culture because of the way we were acting as people fundamentally, and the way we hadn't been baited into becoming a bunch of trigger-happy crybabies and only listen to the loudest of us to run all of our stuff while the important things never gets done. All we worry about is dessert. Nobody ever cooks the main course. It's just like, it's all candy now. There's no protein in anything. And you have to get the metaphor here. And so then it gets weaponized. A small number of loud voices, both sides, make it a zero-sum game. We've got to win. Total war. And so now bipartisan bill is so far decayed into bones, it's ridiculous. And so the real questions, legal immigration levels, stuff like this, are 70% consensus are swallowed up. Like, nobody right now, everybody's talking about the fact that we need to get rid of the illegals. But what about the Americans who are trying to get foreign spouses, like myself, trying to get a foreign spouse in the United States and can't, because we've decided we no longer want people from Colombia to come to the United States. And so our visa is literally stopped in its tracks. We were a year and a half into the process. Now it's dead. We right now do not have a window of when we move back to the States. And that's fine. I chose to put myself here. And I know for anybody out there might feel that way. I get it. You're right. I did. And I could leave tomorrow. I could leave my wife and move back to the United States tomorrow. But I'm not going to do that. But it is kind of weird to know that my own government is not letting me do that. And they're not even giving us a way to do it. Like a way we can even prove anything, like we were doing by spending thousands of dollars on the application process to begin with. The news isn't going to talk about that. And there's not just me. There's a lot of people in this boat in one way or another. Especially, imagine if you're in the United States and again, there's lots of things that Americans are tied to that is impacting us that nobody's talking about that, because it might be important and it would be so easy to fix, but it's never going to get addressed because our situation depends on the relationship of two men, Donald Trump and Gustavo Petro. Has nothing to do with America, nothing to do with Colombia. Has everything to do with how those two guys feel on any given day. Nice.
Nice.
Then we have this stuff. See, we already alluded to this, but let's watch Dr. Steve. Have you seen Dr. Steve? The Patriot Professor. The Patriot Professor. When I first started watching him, I thought I was like, God, this guy's a little overkill. He's like so excited. But since I watched him, he winds up in my feed, and now I watch him. Dr. Steve Turley, I think is his name. This is from him. I'm going to play this. I'm going to talk about the facts for all those people about the when we're just talking about what's going on up in Dearborn and all that. This is what's happening with that in Canada right now. And I also want us now to segue into another portion of this conversation. We're going to be talking about who the people are that are here. But then after that, we're going to get to how does the money even get extracted from the United States in the first place. And so now we're going to move a little bit into the cultural change that we have because of the way that we've allowed our country to be inundated with others who do not assimilate in any way whatsoever. Not that we ever did really that well. I mean, we did it well enough. We have Chinatown in Chicago. You have lots of those kind of things, Italian town, all that. But it's not the same as this. And so Canada has decided to clean it up. And it also connects us back to the episode we had last about all the God talk, that in fact, God does need to be in the conversation. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Just days ago, on April 2nd, his government made it to continue to do this. And to his credit, it turns out he meant it, because just days ago, on April 2nd, his government made it the law. Bill 9, formerly titled An Act Respecting the Reinforcement of Laïcité in Quebec, is now the law of the land in Canada's most culturally assertive province at Square. Now, what is so fascinating here is that across the Atlantic in France itself, Marine Le Pen has an entire apologetic on how the unique form of French secularism known as laïcité is actually dependent on Christianity and Christian civilization. Le Pen argues that Christianity provides the church-state distinction upon which laïcité is grounded. And if you get rid of an overt commitment to the supremacy of Christianity in your land and in their hearts, the French will lose their nation to a religion that knows no such sacred state distinction like Islam.
Yep.
So, first thing, let's unpack. There's a little bit to unpack here. We'll get back to the God part that I was getting at. First, what he's referring to is in Canada, they've had this situation where in front of churches, you'll have a gaggle of Muslims show up with their little prayer rugs, and they'll all lay down and they'll start doing they're chanting and all this stuff loudly while church is trying to take place.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
And it's gotten ridiculous. And they do these marches and all this, and they look like a bunch of freaking. I'm just waiting for the pipe bombs.
They're doing it to antagonize.
It is.
But
and
the Canadians, I don't think, can have guns. I don't think they'd do that in the United States.
That's a whole other topic, Troy. I don't know. Do you see what happened with the guns in Canada? That's a raging news story right now.
Oh, no, anyway, I haven't.
Oh, well, shit. We'll get that in a second then. That's fascinating what's going on up there. But back to this. So anyway, these people are doing this, yes, but they also, in some of these videos, you'll see them saying, we are here, we are going to outnumber you, we are going to outbirth you, and all that. Yep. So this has been said. So what Troy just said about they're doing it on purpose, they say that too. Okay? Yeah. They say that being the case.
Lying. They are outbirthing people, white people, Canadians, Americans. They're not lying.
Exactly. And that's a huge topic too we could dive into. But and I mean, I'm serious on that. These are great angles, but we got to stay here. Where was I? Okay, so this has been going on. And so the way that they're going to stop this is they put a law in there that you say you cannot wear religious emblems, any, in schools, in public universities, hospitals, and all these other places such as that. If you're a private school, you have to now accept people from other faiths. Hospitals cannot just serve one kind of food, be it like halal or whatever it's called, the stuff that some of them eat, and then, kosher, all that. They can have those, but they can't have it exclusively. And so that it has to have all these cultures that have to be available, but you're not allowed to, in any of those public roles as a public paid person, wear anything from a cross to a hijab. Now, obviously, they're targeting the hijab, and the cross is probably still going to happen. People are going to wear it. They're not going to be coming around and yanking it off people. But what they're trying to do is to keep this from growing. And then they also made it so that you cannot have any public religious-based the things out in the street, presentations, the church prayer group, demonstration like that, without case by case approval. You're not going to get some blanket. Yes, you can do that whenever. Each time it has to be approved, and they're not going to do it. So they are going to crack down on this Muslim behavior.
Good.
That is the Muslim behavior that is taking place there to try to keep themselves from being from doing that. And laïcité, a French term, is public spaces are supposed to be clear of faith because of the separation of church and state. And that is based on the fact of the model of the church being Christian in the way that it was presented as democracy grew, or this form grew in Europe. And somehow, and I don't know exactly how it connects, but basically it turns out that if Christianity is removed from the picture, laïcité is not a concept. And so then it opens the door to entire other culture just literally replacing one. And this is kind of, sounds fantastic, but that's what they're getting at here. And that's what Dr. Steve is. You can go over there and click on his video. It's Dr. Steve Turley is his name, the Patriot professor. I don't know if he must be a professor, but and he's very pro-Trump, but he's also good. He does his research, and I like the way he speaks about it. But at any rate, so this brings me back to what I got to pull my foot out of my mouth. The other day when I was outraged about the way that Trump has thrown around things like all the God talk, and Hesketh is throwing around the God talk, and then he comes out with praise Allah on Easter, like we talked about. I was like, can we stop with the God squad? Can we just fight a war because it's about oil again or something? Or China, terrorists or something? But because they're saying that, they're calling it the holy war of Muhammad's, whatever. They actually say it when they're giving out their stuff. We're doing this for Allah. And I'm certainly with Israel, that's baked into the equation. But I was like, can't we just be us? Maverick U.S. We're over there just for material things and to help our friends or whatever. Why do we have to send a crusade type thing? But the fact of the matter is, as I've said here, that I'm not religious per se. I was born and raised in a Christian country, and I was born and raised by Christian parents, whether or not they went to church. Christianity is Christianity. If I ever were religious, obviously I know exactly where I'd be. And I do dig the whole Christ consciousness thing. Not that I'm in that movement, but I get it. And it's all good stuff. There's no evil in there. I've got no issue with Christianity. I'm just not a church person. But I come from a Christian country, and I want Christians to live around me. I live around Christians right now. Columbia is all Catholics, So I would not. This, believe it or not, this is going to sound xenophobic as hell, but it would, to me, feel weird to live in a country that wasn't Christian.
That would be weird.
I know it's like it's different than not knowing the language. It's a whole different ballgame in so many different understanding of things, yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people, some people probably say it a hell of a lot more free than I would. Troy, yeah, but you couldn't do it. You couldn't suddenly go live in Dubai.
Nope. Wouldn't want to.
If I had $1 billion and I could have a fancy house like on the shoreline or one of those places like Abu Dhabi or whatever, I could visit a lot, but I don't know. I can't imagine hanging out. If you even did learn the language, what could you possibly talk about?
The railroad story about that place, but that's not now.
Hey, something related to this. The other day I was talking, and by the way, any of my Colombianos in La Tabata that are watching right now, hola. I have my Colombians that are subscribers to the channel now, the local tienda, the store.
Hola.
Hola, exactly. And, by the way, the reason he says adios at the end is on purpose. He's mispronouncing it on purpose.
On purpose.
Shocking behavior for Troy, I must say. But yes, Troy.
I saw it in the movie.
He saw it in the movie. But at any rate, what was I going to say about Colombia? I forgot. I lost my train of thought on
your friends down there.
Oh, yes. They watch the channel. And so when I say Gen X to them, what does that mean?